Any guesses what it is?
Marbles.
You want to hear the story about it?
Yeah.
Sure. Step forward and fill up the empty chairs here. Come on. It's going to be an interesting story. The timer has already started to watch. Yes. There are a few empty chairs here. Come along. It's not a ghost story. Thank you. Stop warming that treasure of talent under your bum and do some work over here. That was how my grandfather used to scream at the farmhands. And he would even scream the same thing at me. Stop warming that treasure of talent under your bum and do some work over here. I would wonder, what was the treasure of talent he used to talk about? Sometimes in the evening when all the farmhands had left, I would go to those places where they were seated and try to dig the soil to find out what was buried underneath. My grandfather was polite, was loving, but at a time when it came to doing work, and if he found anyone, including his own grandson, idling around, he would yell the same thing. One day, I gathered enough courage to ask him, what was the treasure of talent he talked about? And he told me a story that was passed to him from at least 3 or 4 generations. He told me the story of his great, and I don't know how many grades he had added because I was very young at that time, a great grandfather who was born into a family of bonded laborers. And this is the story that happened at the time when the East India Company and the princes ruled the land. The landlords, or the zamindars as they were called, controlled the area around them with an iron hand. And those who worked their fields were supposed to work in their fields for generations. Carlos, this great-grandfather of ours, was one of them. And he had told the story that happened to him. And that happened between him and his landlord, Deen Dayal. Deen Dayal, by his name, might sound like somebody who was very forgiving, somebody who was very generous, but he was generous and he was shrewd. He was cunning and he was calculating. He was forgiving, yet he would find faults. Now he owned the big village itself, and he had 3 servants, Bhiku, Carlos, and Chatur. They were his most trusted servants. Deen Dayal was part of a group of landlords who valued and treasured the land around them. He trusted his servants to take care of the land, to take care of the crops, to take care of the cattle. But he never ever trusted them with one thing. He called it his honor. The currency at that time was called annas. But for Deen Dayal, he used to say that this is my honor. Now in those times, if I roughly translated honor to today's language, it would come out to something like mean something like talent. Okay. Now, once Deen Dayal was going for a year's vacation to a neighboring state. And he called in his 3 servants and said, Bhiku, Carlos, Chatur, I am entrusting you with a packet, this containers that contain different quantities of hunar for you. Each of you are being given according to your capabilities. And I'm entrusting you with it. When I come back, I will ask you for it. So to Bhiku, he gave 3,000 hunars, something like these coins. To Carlos, he gave 2,000 hunars. And to Chatur, he gave 1,000 hunars. What he did not tell them was that every time they traded using these hunars, they would momentarily gain a skill, a talent, and they would not even be aware of it. So the first servant, Bhiku, he was endowed with talent of having the strength of an ox, being as cunning as Chanakya and as patient as Buddha. Carlos got 2,000 hunars, and that endowed him with the speed of the cheetah and being as perseverant as a worker ant. And Chatur, he was given the greatest gift of all. He got the gift of gab. Whatever he would say, it would be persuasive to anyone who heard it. 1 year went by, and then the master returned. And then he called his 3 servants. Chatur, Bhiku, Huna, Carlos, come on. They came. Master, tell me what you did in all these years, or past 1 year. Bhiku stepped forward and said, Master, you gave me 3,000 of these. I used them and made it to 6,000. Here it is. The master said, I am very pleased with you, Bhiku. You have done well and used the master's gifts wisely. Come in and share my joy. Carlos stepped forward. He said, Master, you gave me 2,000 of these. I used them and made it to 4,000. All of these are for you. Then they all said, I am very pleased with you, Carlos. You have done well. Come and share your master's joy. And then he invited them into the dining hall. Chatur stepped forward. He held the same and said, Master, I knew you were shrewd. I knew you are cunning. And I knew that these are hard-earned money that you had given to me. I took them and buried them in the ground to keep it safe for you, so that when you return, I will give that to you. And he gave. The master said, Chatur, how can you? I gave you this hunar and you made that into a bank? If I had put this money in a bank, I would have got some interest out of it. You buried this in the ground. Then he called Bhiku and Carlos and said, take this money from him and whatever he has, and throw him among the public. I have given, and this is strange, I had given him a talent and he wasted it away in a year. This might seem a very familiar story to all of us. All of you have been endowed with at least one talent. What you want to do with it is your choice. You might be very good at singing in the bathroom. You might be very good at flipping chapatis. But are you using that to develop that talent? Or are you warming that treasure talent on the ground with your palm? Mr. Toastmaster.